Fox Sports.
We are the Force. We are Florida.
A wet night in Flushing. But you know what? We got baseball tonight. The Marlins and the Mets open up a weekend series at Citi Field. Clouds above, some drizzle in the forecast, but a lot drier than it was today. Tarp on the field this afternoon. But the grounds crew's got the field ready, and this thing will start on time. National League East, the Nationals right now a huge cushion. The Marlins have dropped to 12-15. The Mets have improved to 12-15. Phillies, same record as well. Hi, everybody. Rich Waltz along with Todd Hollinsworth. The Marlins have hit their first significant speed bump of the season. They didn't play well against Tampa Bay, lost 3 of 4. What did you see?
Inconsistency, and I think it's really the way that you would sum everything up. I don't think that there's one phase of this team you point a finger at and say that's letting us down right now. Very inconsistent, but here's how we think optimistically going into tonight. 5-2 versus the Mets this year. They played very good baseball. Hopefully they find that rhythm again. Exhibit A of that was when the Marlins and the Mets met down in South Florida. This was a 4-game series. Remember that long 16-inning game to start things? Travis d'Arnaud won it. I did, but I think of the competitive nature in this and how this Marlins team was just showing resiliency time and time again. Yes, that was a big d'Arnaud homer right there, but you could absolutely feel the intensity in this series. And then you get this moment from JT Realmuto, when, in fact, the Marlins were battling back and forth with the Mets, and they're finding ways to win games. It was a series of moments. Marlins were down late on that Saturday game. Christian Yelich with a blast to right to tie it, and then Stanton followed it. This was an absolute laser beam. I'll tell you what, it could have been playoff baseball. It was playoff baseball. It's certainly what it felt like, and I think the fans at Marlins Park felt the intensity in that series. And remember JT Riddle? The Marlins blew a lead, looked like they were headed to extras, and then the kid hit it out. Is it fair to say that was his best swing as a Marlin? It really was his biggest moment right there, and I couldn't be happier for him. Remember his first base hit was a ball that bounced in the dirt, and he comes up with that incredible moment right there. So thrilled for him, but that's what a team who's feeling that emotion and that good rhythm does. They find ways to win ball games. And the Marlins certainly looking to recapture that against a Mets team that has won 4 of their last 6. Yeah. Starting rotation for both teams tonight and for the Marlins moving forward. A lot of news tonight. Jessica Blaylock's got that next.
U.S. Open. A gorgeous facility there on over here to Citi Field. Marlins and Mets starting rotation. Normally you can pencil it out a week in advance. If you did that, you might want to get the liquid paper out, right, Jessica Blaylock?
That is correct. I'll have more on that in just a moment. But like you mentioned earlier, Rich, a rough patch lately for the Marlins, but a good opportunity for them to bounce back here in New York. They played the Mets really well so far this season, a record of 5-2 in 7 meetings. As for Don Mattingly, here is what has stood out to him about the matchup.
Those games could have went either way. You know, there were some tough games there in Miami. They get us in the extra inning game. We're able to win some tight games there. So, you know, they've been back and forth. It's actually been a really good series, both series here too. So, you know, no real, I don't think trends have been set with the Mets. I think we know them pretty well. They probably know us, and they've been really good games.
As far as the pitching matchup goes for tonight, Tom Kohler will get the start for the Marlins. A 5.40 ERA and a record of 1-1 so far this year for the native New Yorker. He has been a Bulldog and battled, but says he needs to get off to better starts in games. For the Mets, they are once again dealing with injuries to their starting rotation. So Rafael Montero has been called up to fill in for Noah Syndergaard. When Terry Collins was asked what Montero needs to do to be successful, he said it is simple. He needs to throw strikes. A quick pitching update. Wei-Yin Chen will not get the start tomorrow. He is dealing with a little bit of an elbow issue, and as you know, Edinson Volquez had that blister in his last start. So Jose Urena will get the start on Sunday. Coming up next, it is first pitch in Game 1 of a 3-game series between the Marlins and the Mets. Rich Waltz and Todd Hollinsworth will have the call for you on your home for Marlins baseball, Fox Sports Florida.
Florida is brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. By Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. By Jeep, get great deals on the Jeep lineup at the Jeep Spring Clearance events. And by your local Toyota dealers. Let's go places. Yes, that's water. Yes, it's wet. It rained all day in New York. Field is somewhat damp. There is a as the Marlins and the Mets get ready to go. D. Gordon and the Fish arrive here having dropped 7 of their last 9. Miami is 3 under. And here's the Marlins lineup with a hot Marcell Ozuna in it. It's brought to you by Southwest Airlines. D. Gordon, Martin Prado, and Christian Yelich, Giancarlo Stanton, Marcelo Zuna in left. Great numbers coming off that Rays series. Justin Bour, JT Realmuto, Miguel Rojas gets a start at short, and Tom Kohler is in the 9 spot. D. Gordon in the box, and it's Rafael Montero on the mound. And Montero's fastball is up, and this game is underway. Gordon, Prado, Yelich. Montero was in the bullpen for the Mets to start things and did not pitch well in the pen.
No, he did not. He made a start last Saturday in the minor leagues, again filling in for Syndergaard. 88 pitches last time out, so don't read too much into those numbers. 9:45, as we said, out of the bullpen.
2-0 pitch. And Gordon takes a fastball for a strike. D. Gordon 2 for 4 in the games in St. Pete. Montero pumps in another fastball for a strike. And the 2-2. Gordon sends a little floater out behind short. Reyes retreats and makes the catch. And there's one out here in the first. Yes, Jose Reyes at short tonight as Drupal Cabrera's legs a little wobbly right now. Reyes getting the start at short. Prado arrives.
Both these teams a little fatigued after last night's events. Long game, both night games. Now the Mets got rained out in Atlanta, but they had to wait around an awful long time. Both teams didn't get in until about 3 o'clock this morning.
At about the same time they landed at the airport here in New York. Prado takes a fastball up. Marlins, of course, last night facing the Rays at the Trop. They lost 5-1. They won the game the night previous 10-6. That on Wednesday night. The Mets, who've played better since the Marlins have seen them, have won 4 of their last 6. They won 2 of 3 in Atlanta, and Game 4 last night actually was going quite well. Zach Wheeler was dealing for Terry Collins. Jay Bruce was homering for the Mets.
Again.
And they had a 3-1 lead, but rain in the 4th inning, and the rain never stopped, and the game was washed out.
You talked about that 6-game trip. They averaged just under 8 runs a ball game, hitting 300 with 12 home runs. So the Mets really kind of picking up their pitching with a ton of offense over the last 6 ball games.
It's a good pitch there, a little wrinkle for a strike at the knees. And for Miami, the opposite has been true. The Marlins just trying to find consistent offense. I mean, last 2 nights a great example. A run last night, 2 nights ago, 10 runs, 17 hits.
You know, and 7 singles last night, just not able to really get anything going.
Prado sends it to right center. That's Granderson out there. And just shy of the track, he makes the catch. All right, the Mets defensively, obviously a lot of injuries, but this is Terry Collins' lineup.
Well, you still see one of the most productive outfield offenses in all of baseball. Conforto, Granderson, and Bruce, they are getting it done. Now in the infield, Flores, Reyes, Neil Walker, Rivera over at first base tonight. He's really been swinging a hot bat. Rivera as well. Rene Rivera behind the plate, and Montero on the mound for the Mets. So talking about that offense, remember the last time we saw the Mets, we were raving this Marlins outfield offense. So good. Talking Osuna, talking Yelich, talking Stanton. Well, that is what has gotten this Mets team in gear, has been their outfield offense. Since we last saw the Mets, Jay Bruce has been on a tear. Conforto's been hitting the cover off the baseball. It's really how they've kind of kept themselves, I would call it, kept themselves afloat, but honestly, they've been playing pretty good baseball since all of the injuries to their staff and others. I mean, you look at this long list of DL candidates, or guys on the disabled list for the Mets right now. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Breaking ball misses down low. The biggest absence in terms of position players, one is Cespedes. And for Terry Collins and the Mets, they have to do without Noah Syndergaard. And Travis d'Arnaud they placed on the disabled list tonight. Yelich with a count 2-1. We're just underway here in New York. And Yelich fouls it back to the screen. I know the Marlins haven't seen the Mets much this year. Wink, wink. 7 games already between these two Look
team.
at this list. This is like, I mean, this is a really good team right here. Cespedes, Darno, Duda, Nemo, Lugo, Matz, Syndergaard. My goodness gracious. I mean, and that's not even, you don't even mention David Wright. Oh, by the way, who's been out all season long. But
there's
see
the
what
captain.
what they envision themselves as being and what they are currently.
Yelich takes in, and Montero with a full count. Christian comes in with a 270 average, 311 on base, and he's slugging at 387. And he walks, and that'll get Stanton to the plate with 2 outs and Yelich at first.
Let's talk a little bit more about Rafael Montero. This young man's got a good arm. You've already seen the 95-mile-an-hour fastball that he's got. Really, it's just talking about his consistency. I think that word's going to get thrown around an awful lot tonight because I think both teams are really searching for it. But for Montero in particular, he's made 12 starts as a Met, making his first start this season. They love his arm, but the results just have not been there consistently. And one of the things that has plagued him is in the minor leagues, he's been a strike thrower. Good fastball, good run, good slider to go along with it, decent changeup. And there you go. You see the scouting report. First things first, as I just said, making his first start this year at the big level. Big shoes to fill. No, talking about Noah Syndergaard, that's who he's filling in for, and the potential just hasn't met the results. And it's pretty simple. That is not a deliberate play on words. I just read that and it worked out that way. But here's the point. He has not met that potential yet, and that's really what it comes down to. They love his upside, but again, that's a conversation that's been going on for about 3 or 4 years.
Fastball up and in, and the count is 1 ball and 1 strike. Now, Giancarlo 1 for 9 on the road trip. And Stanton in last night's ball game was 0 for 4. Stranded some runners as well. This has always been a place where he's enjoyed hitting. A lot of tape measure home runs here. A lot of volume of homers here. He takes a slider that misses away. He's in a good spot here, 2-1. With Yelich at first. Those are the career numbers. 46 games and 17 home runs. That's a pretty good clip. I mean, you play at that pace half your season here, you're going to hit 27, 28 homers here.
Well, Rich, what you hope for is that it gets him going once again. We talk about that an awful lot. Feeling good in certain ballparks, feeling good in the box in certain ballparks. And what you want to see is Giancarlo start to find that stroke again, that consistency that we saw earlier this year, where he was just terrorizing starting pitching.
Well, 3-1. Let's see if he gets that fastball again. He takes it, and that's a good at bat by Stanton. He's been chasing some of those. He takes his walk. The Marlins have walked twice, and it brings up Ozuna.
Why not? It's a good take right here. You see that ball just off the corner, but good disciplined at bats from Yelich and Stanton, talking about getting out of it. Both have been kind of struggling a little bit here over the last week or so, and put together a couple of nice at bats right there. Didn't expand their strike zones. Then what you do is you get one of your hottest hitters up here in Ozuna with 2 outs. We've talked about it a lot this season, how good he's been with runners in scoring position. He's in a nice spot right now to do some damage.
And of course, Ozuna and his wife did damage in St. Pete.
Literally did damage to the building.
Yes, it was great to see her show up on all the highlight films in highlight shows, along with her husband, who both had Titanic homers. The annual wives charity softball game between the Marlins and the Rays. Marcel last night was 1 for 3, and of course the home run and 2 hits on Wednesday night. Fastball is a strike. And it's 0-1. 6-game hit streak for Ozuna. And with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, he's off to a great start. And that is, for him, 11 at bats in that spot. Yelich at second, Stanton at first.
Those are the at bats. Those are the at bats that win ball games, and I think that's what one thing that you pick up on here. We've talked about his impact. When you're hitting 545 with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, my oh my, you are having a major impact. Look at this one. Watch the banner, American League. Look at that. The fact that it hit the banner with such force and it created that ripple, to me, is still amazing.
I really do believe if that banner was not there, that ball had a good chance of hitting the back of the building.
That was child's play compared to Genesis Ozuna's home run, his wife. I mean, she took a ball and hammered it to left and hit it well over the fence. And she was much more stylish out of the box than Marcel ever has been.
They have similar swings.
Here's the 1-1. Ozuna, a little busted bat flare in left center, and it's caught there. Granderson on the run. Miami leaves a couple. We're underway on a soggy night in Flushing. Gamer, a weekend series. And here come the Mets. Let's meet them. Michael Conforto, as Todd told you, is lighting it up. TJ Rivera's at first, Jay Bruce in right, Neil Walker at second, Curtis Granderson at center, Wilmer Flores at third base, Jose Reyes at short, Rene Rivera will do the catching, and Rafael Montero hits ninth. Southwest brings you that. Conforto at the top of the lineup with a 6-game streak.
Well, you see Tom Kohler's numbers on the season. He wants to get that ERA down, that 5.40. There's been some good work in there, and then some spots that certainly he would like to improve on. I'm going to give you a couple of them right now. Leading off an inning, he's got to do a fantastic job tonight of getting that leading guy out every inning. Starting with Conforto right here to lead off the ball game. Hitters are hitting 571 against him. That number is obviously way too big. And you're going to see at the top of this lineup, and you saw in the lineup, 4 of the first 5 hitters are lefties. They're hitting 381 against him, so he's going to have to control that side of the plate.
And when Conforto strikes in the first inning, more often than not, it's a long ball. At least lately, you see 7 home runs, and he's driven in 18.
Well, he's hunting fastballs. His pitchers come out, they try to establish their fastballs, and make a little comparison here. D. Gordon might take a few pitches, but if you do end up putting one down the middle of the plate, the damage is going to be different typically. Conforto's a power hitter who is taking full advantage of hitting in the leadoff spot right now and hunting some of those fastballs.
And the Mets are leaning on Conforto and Jay Bruce and Neil Walker with a lot of their pop out. Cespedes, Duda, Darno today. Kohler gets a strike there, and it's 1-2. But not only did they beat Atlanta 2 of 3, but the Mets beat Washington 2 of 3. And that was after losing 8 of 9, and obviously Miami contributed to some of that. Conforto with a count 1-2. Kohler, amazingly, hasn't faced the Mets this year. Good breaking ball. Kohler thought it was a strike. Started off the mound.
Let's take another look. See that knuckle curveball, that grip right there where you see that spiked finger from Tom Kohler. I thought it was a pretty good pitch. Holy cow.
Fastball 95, and Kohler gets him.
Told you about the law of averages, right? Tom Kohler struggled with leadoff hitters. Conforto's been just pummeling the baseball in anybody in this first inning. With Tom Kohler comes up with a big strikeout at the top of the strike zone. Well done.
TJ Rivera now for the Mets. Rivera finds himself at first base. Of course, he's not on the disabled list, but Asdrubal Cabrera not in the lineup. You're right, long night for everybody with the Marlins and the Mets in their two respective road cities. Rivera back legs one down the line and gone. A high fastball, and Rivera didn't miss it.
Well, you're going to see it. This is a fastball that he misses to the inside part of the plate and up. TJ Rivera able to keep it fair. We've told you kind of binge this Mets offense has been on. It's only going to add to Tom Kohler's first inning ERA. That is now the 5th home run that he has given up in the first inning of ball games. Remember, this is only his 6th start of the season.
Jay Bruce now. Bruce with 9 home runs. Only one of those has come at Miami's expense in the 0-1.
Hit his 10th last night, had it taken away.
How about that? That's it's one of those nuances of baseball in a game that is stopped by rain before it gets the mandatory 5 innings in. The statistics from those first 4 innings are wiped out if the game is not resumed that night. And as it is, the Mets and the Braves will have to replay that game in its entirety. And Kohler misses outside, but Bruce, a guy that the Mets acquired last year, contributed down the stretch. Remember, the Mets got to the wild card game last year. And he walks. So a strikeout of Conforto, a homer by TJ Rivera, and a walk to Bruce, and here's Neil Walker. And Walker takes up. Now there are Mets in and out of the starting 9, and even on the bench that have had some success against Kohler. Asdrubal Cabrera probably the best with the most at bats, but he's not starting. And Real Muto is on his way out to talk to Kohler here. He's fallen behind Neil Walker 2-0. Miami defensively tonight. We'll get to that in just a moment. Actually, here they are.
Beautiful catch by Mr. Yelich in center field. Here you go. Ozuna, Yelich, and Stanton are going to be your outfielders tonight. Prado, Rojas, D. Gordon, Justin Bour over at first base, JT Realmuto, and Tom Kohler on the mound for your Miami Marlins.
Kohler gets a strike and the count's 2-1. Marlins have a shift for Walker. You got Prado over on the first base side of second, with Rojas still over at short. Runner goes, and a high pop behind the plate. Real Muto back for a look, and it's into the seats. The crowd tonight, my guess, will be below 20,000. There was a lot of flooding in New York, in where we were, downtown Manhattan, but also out in the other boroughs. The rain has subsided. It was supposed to pick up around 10 o'clock tonight. You can see the humidity and 60 degrees. Actually, it's pretty comfortable.
Yeah, not bad, but the temperature has dropped. I mean, both these teams were, Marlins were in Florida. Mets were playing the Braves in Atlanta, so it does feel a little chilly tonight. It's only supposed to get colder, I believe, as the weekend goes on here.
Yes, Sunday's game could be a little chilly. But as long as there's no rain, I think everybody will be happy. John Mattingly before the game talking about the intensity of the game so far between these two teams. 2-2 to Walker. Now, Mets and Marlins have met already 7 times, and the Marlins have won 5 of the 7. And when this series is done, the Marlins will have played 30 games. 10 of them will have been against the Mets. So a third of Miami's games at the end of this series, 10 of them will have been Marlins and Mets.
Well, and Don Mattingly has been talking about that level of intensity, in regards to the ball club. And I think that when you look at what has happened in these series with the Mets and even the 5-2 record going into tonight's ball game, there has been that intensity. There has been the ability to hold on to leads, to gain leads, to fight back.
Runner on the move. Got him. Sweet tag and a beauty from Rojas. Gets Bruce and Real Muto on a strike him out, throw him out double play. Now the Mets are going to look at this, I believe. And Terry Collins, top step of the dugout, now says negative. We won't look at it. Marlins hung out on the field. 1-0 Mets. Catchers in the game. JT Real Muto on a strike him out, throw him out double play.
Look at how quick he gets out from behind home plate. Even though the throw is to the third base side of the bag, Rojas does a fantastic job able to go out and get it. And by bracing himself on the ground with that left knee, able to swipe tag right there and get Jay Bruce for the inning-ending double play.
And that ball was a breaking ball almost on the dirt that Real Muto had to backhand, stay in the crouch, and then throw. But it's a 1-0 start. The Mets getting a homer from T.J. Rivera, Justin Bour, J.T. Real Muto, and Miguel Rojas. And it's Bour who flips one down the line. Conforto gives chase, and then stumbling. Did he hold it? Yes, he did. Conforto headed towards the wall, and at the last minute, a little bit of a misstep, but held on.
You see him try to come under control right there at the last second and able to make a nice catch. Wet conditions out here. Outfielders and infielders are probably going to proceed with just a hair more caution. You kind of saw it right there as he breaks it down just as he leaves the grass area. Just have to be careful in these wet conditions. You always see it proceed, even on like line drive base hits. You have to be just a hint more careful that baseball doesn't skip on you.
Here's Real Muto, and he takes a fastball for a strike. JT had 3 hits in St. Pete. He led off on the Wednesday night game. Knocked in 4, had a triple, couple hits, scored a couple runs. And a breaking ball in there for a strike. Of course, the Mets rotation has undergone changes as the season has started, and certainly is nowhere near as expected, not only in personnel but also in results. Obviously, Syndergaard is the headliner and is out. Steven Matz still has a sore elbow, and the ERAs of some of the other starters: Matt Harvey at 5.14, Zach Wheeler close to 5, Jacob deGrom at 3.68. Robert Gazelman, an ERA at 6.78.
Oh, they've had their issues, there's no doubt. The rotation not off to the best of starts. But again, when you look at this division and you see what the Nationals are doing, it's early. You just have to make sure that you don't fall too far behind. Not necessarily of the Nationals, just of the lead story, even in the National League. And I think for both of these ball clubs right now, they've seen enough positives that they're close enough to maybe making that burst. For the Mets, having a good last road trip, they really needed that. They'd lost 8 of 9 before going out on that road trip, and they found their offense. They found a few home runs. For the Marlins, it's probably consistency. They've been trading off some wins and losses. I know over this last week and a half or so, it's been a lot more losses, but there have been enough good things to think that this team is going to be able to sustain itself throughout the season.
Yeah, you really just didn't expect that. And you would think that will change, although the absence of Syndergaard might make it hard for them to drop a lot off of that. Here's a 2-2. Real Muto fouls it off. And if you've just joined us, the Marlins rotation undergoing changes by the minute, it feels like. Obviously, Edinson Volquez with the blister is on the disabled list. Jose Urena will make his start on Sunday. Wei-Yin Chen has been placed on the 10-day disabled list with fatigue in his left arm. 9th pitch of the at-bat here, and Real Muto swings and misses. So the probables for the rest of this series for both the Marlins and the Mets to be announced is probably going to be Odrisamer Despaigne, because the corresponding move is Despaigne to the Marlins, though they have not announced that he will start. A good bet that he will tomorrow against Gazelman, and then Urena gets the ball against Harvey on Sunday.
Well, and you have the potential for more bullpen innings, and I think that's what leads us back to tonight's ball game and Tom Kohler and the opportunity to hopefully put together a long, lengthy start. That's something that you would target in this situation, knowing that the next 2 games you're going to potentially be in your bullpen a little bit longer. This is what he does. He's a grinder, for the words grinder, length, innings. He's got to give him that tonight.
Rojas went around. Chad Whitson is the first base umpire. Bruce Dreckman is calling balls and strikes. You've got Mike Everett at second and Bill Welke at third. Rojas has had a really nice start. 309 average, 371 on base. He had a nice game in St. Pete's. Rojas getting the start on the Wednesday night game, and he had 4 hits.
Yeah, and you see the numbers right there, 2 for 2 against Montero, and he's hitting .429 over his last 7 games. And as Don Mattingly's talked about, Echeverria swinging the bat better, Rojas swinging the bat, and the balance that he has trying to keep both these guys really hot and swinging the bat well.
One and two. I think the challenge for Miami offensively over the last week to 10 days is just getting 3 or 4 guys, Yelich, Abor, Ozuna, Stanton, all those guys, Prado, get them hot, or at least 3 or 4 of them hot at the same time. Marlins haven't been able to get 3 or 4 guys consistently hot for a week span yet this year.
I'll put it in a baseball player's mind. If you're still thinking along with this, baseball players at home, young kids, guys, the lineup is not feeding off each other very well right now. And what you're seeing, and sometimes what ends up happening, it's not like they're leaving a lot of guys on base per se. It's almost the feeling like the hits are coming at the wrong time. You'll see with 2 outs, nobody on, base hit, like you saw almost in the first inning, walk, but you're still only 1 out away from the inning ending, and you've seen a lot of that from them offensively right now. They're just not really, step for step feeding off each other. When they're really rolling, that's when you start to get that good feeling of what this offense can do. The hits have been there. I mean, look, 7 hits last night. I mean, granted, you like to see a few more home runs, but right now they're just not really in rhythm.
Rojas has run the count to 3-2. We'd love to get to first and at least turn the lineup over and get Kohler to the plate. And a breaking ball by Montero, and he fouls it off. It's 3-2.
The Marlins saw Montero early April 7th and 8th. She scored a couple runs off him in the game on the 8th. Again, working out of that bullpen.
Marlins don't have a hit, but they've pushed the pitch count up to 42. 3-2 coming off the end of the bat, and that's going to bloop into center field for a hit, and Rojas continues to swing it, and that will bring Kohler up. Barring a big mistake by Rojas in the bases, that means Kohler will not lead off the next inning.
And certainly what you're looking for. You see the breaking ball right there. We talked about how hot Rojas has been over the last week or so. Good piece hitting right there, staying on it and finding some green grass in center field, getting Tom Kohler to the plate. But this is also that example of what I'm talking about. The Marlins have kind of done this, built some innings at the wrong end. They got to work on getting that leadoff guy on a few more times and maybe building things at the start of the inning.
Tom Kohler swings and misses, and the count is 0-1. Kohler has a hit this year. And he fouls that fastball back, and it's 0-2.
With a lot of credit to the Marlins. You see that pitch count 45. This has been the byproduct of fouling off a lot of pitches against Montero. It speaks to what Montero has, that 94-95. Good slider to go along with it, decent changeup, but they've been fouling off a lot of his pitches.
Breaking ball in there for a strike. Kohler is out. Miami leaves a runner. The Mets lead it 1-0. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. Accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Miami Marlins Rich Waltz along with Todd Hollinsworth. Jessica Blaylock is here as well. Marlins and Mets for the umpteenth time already. 8th game already between the two. Marlins took 2 of 3 here and 3 of 4 down in South Florida. There have been changes on both sides for the Mets injuries and for the Marlins rotation. A couple of injuries as well. But a TJ Rivera homer to left is the only run of the ball game. Tom Kohler's been bitten by the long ball this year. Start number 6, and he has given up 8 homers. Here is Granderson, Wilmer Flores, and Jose Reyes will follow.
Granderson getting the start tonight in center field. Garris has really been swinging the bat for the Mets. Right-handed hitter. It's playing off of those lefty-righty splits that Tom Kohler has. Righties have struggled against him this year. Lefties, completely different story. 381, as I said, 500 on-base percentage. So you're starting to see teams going up against Tom Kohler trying to stack those lineups with as many left-handers as they have available because of those splits. They're so drastic right now.
The splits for Granderson are both drastically under 200 as he tries to get it in gear. Good breaking ball from Kohler. And Granderson has certainly a first year as a Met. There were concerns that maybe this wasn't going to work with the 4-year, $60 million contract, but his last couple years he's been really good. Shoots that one. Diving stop. Rojas got him. Shift on. Rojas, the only man on the island. And he is a defensive wizard wherever you put him.
A little smile right there. Good to see. Rojas step and a dive to the backhand. Up and a strong throw across the diamond to get the speedy Granderson. Stayed inside of a curveball right there. Rojas had a good read and a good break on it. Able to get a strong throw over to Justin Bourne. Beautiful.
Wilmer Flores now with Jose Reyes to follow. And Kohler gets a strike on Flores, who was hot early in the season but has cooled down considerably. To right, Stanton chased towards the corner. He makes the catch. And that'll bring up a rather hot Jose Reyes. Reyes coming off one of his biggest games in his career RBI-wise. On May 3rd, 2 nights ago, 5 runs driven in, was 2 for 4 with a double, and that tied his career high. And his career high was set in one of his first games in the big leagues. June 15th, 2003, the 6th game in his major league career.
He made quite an impression early on in his career, no doubt.
All right, now get this. Speaking of some great names. So he goes 13 years and 322 days between 5 RBI games. The only players that had longer gaps. How about Paul Molitor and Pete Rose? Isn't that wild?
Is that because it's the specific number 5, or did they have more or less? It's just, is it, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I guess I don't know. That's pretty impressive. It's hard for me to believe that he wouldn't, those two, especially Molitor, wouldn't have a 5 RBI game or more.
Well, not in that 13-year gap.
Well, right. But I guess what I'm asking is, did he have 6 and it didn't count?
See, I was told there'd be no math.
Have to get to the bottom of this.
That's as far as I
always wonder these questions. They're great questions, and it's great knowledge. But you sit there, and you're like, well, sometimes it counts. Like, well, yeah, it's because he had six RBI games.
But that's why we have Mitch Smith as our baseball historian, and Mitch right now is scratching his head like I'm scratching
See, I just
my
can't
head.
believe that Molitor didn't have a 5 RBI game. I am going to let it go now because I certainly don't want to keep rolling it. But I mean,
On the
it's a
ground.
good question.
We're going to solve Todd's anxiety here when we get back from the break. Nice inning by Tom Kohler.
One to nothing. By the end of the weekend, the Mets will have played 30 games, and how about this? Every single one of them has been against an opponent in the NL East. This is their third series against the Marlins. They've also played the Braves 3 times, the Phillies and the Nationals twice each. And how about this? Those 30 consecutive games against the NL East, that is the 4th longest streak in Major League Baseball as far as most consecutive games versus a divisional opponent to start the season. Guys, their first opponent outside the NL East, that would be the Giants on Monday.
All right, thank you, Jessica. D. Gordon is up, and he fouls it back to the screen. And had they not suffered a couple of rainouts, it would have been 32 consecutive to open against their own division. Now, I think that you know, one of the wild cards in the scheduling for every team in the East this year is the Atlanta Braves opening a new ballpark, because it changes everything. The tradition lately when you open a new ballpark, and the Marlins had this, even though they played one game at home, it was then go on the road and make sure, you know, that you have a little cushion in terms of getting everything ready. And a high fastball strikes out Gordon. The Braves open the season with 3 road trips. Boy, let me stop, reverse myself, unfold my tongue. The Braves started with a 3-city road trip to open their season. There, thank you very much.
There you go.
D. Gordon strikes out. And here's Martin Prado with Christian Yelich behind him. Rafael Montero's throwing hard, but he's also throwing a lot. 50 pitches, 1 out into the 3rd. Prado a fly ball out to center.
Well, all things considered, to this point in the ballgame, I think Terry Collins and the Mets are probably, despite that high pitch count, pretty happy with what they've seen from Montero. Didn't come in with the best of numbers. 6 2/3 innings at the major league level. He'd allowed 16 hits and 8 walks. He had a whip of 3.6, and I know that's out of the bullpen, but regardless, those are big numbers.
Well, as you noted, he did make 2 AAA starts. Las Vegas is still the Mets' AAA affiliate. A game in Sacramento and a game in Las Vegas against Albuquerque, and only 2 runs total in the starts. Prado rolls one through the left side, and Martin Prado has a 1-out hit. Watch party for the Fish Saturday at Dave & Buster's at the Dolphin Mall. Marlins and Mets tomorrow night 7:10. We'll be here. You can be at Dave & Buster's. DJ Vertigo will provide the music. Giveaways, prizes. Billy is there, and if Billy is there, then hijinks are sure to follow. Marlins.com for more info. Yelich walked back in the first, and part of this pitch count problem for Montero was the Yelich at bat and then a walk to Stanton. Long look over at Freddie Gonzalez, coaching at third base. Oh, 0-2.
Montero's commanded that fastball to both sides of the plate. The crowd, the lefties and the righties as well.
Yelich hasn't seen much of Montero. This is only his 6th plate appearance. He is 0 for 4. And it hits him. Yelich is hit. And he's on his way to first. Prado to second. And that brings Stanton up. It's a back foot breaking ball, quite literally.
Yes, it is. You see it right there. Breaks in. Christian not able to get his back foot out of the way. The 2 strikes and down in the count. Not a whole lot you can do there. Certainly doesn't want to necessarily get hit, but he'll take it under the circumstances. In a lot of ways, explains some of the frustration the Mets have felt towards Montero, that inconsistency.
So here's Stanton. Giancarlo walked in the first. The Mets, when they threw him a fastball, it was off the plate. Rivera a couple times tried to snap the glove back and frame it. And Bruce Dreckman, home plate umpire, would not give him the call. Busted bat, a little pop up on the infield, and it's dropped. It's the infield fly rule, so runners will stay where they are. And Stanton is out. And that's why they have the infield fly rule. It's to avoid fielders dropping it on purpose and putting runners in a double play spot.
See Rivera try right there regardless. 2-seam fastball all over Giancarlo Stanton's hands.
How does the rule read? It always says runners advance at their own peril. That's always, to me, seemed to be kind of a negative when it came to runners, because maybe some of the runners may see it as an opportunity, and peril always sounds like you're in great danger.
Yes, it does.
Ozuna,
and you could be in great danger if you decide to take advantage of that.
On a ball like that, you'd be in great.
Not only would you be in great danger on the bases, you might be in great danger when you get back to the dugout as well.
With your manager, you're right. Ozuna fly to left center field. He busted his bat. Lines that one into left center field, and a hit. Prado will score. Yelich is racing for third. Conforto up with it. And Marcell Ozuna stays hot. A 7-game hit streak. RBI number 24. And the Marlins have tied this game at a run apiece.
Back-to-back sliders to Ozuna. The second one costly as it's out over the plate. You're not going to get 2 by him. Swung through the first one, did not miss the second one. Great swing, right back through the middle. RBI right there, ties this ball game at 1.
Ozuna is swinging it right now like he wants back on that National League All-Star team.
Yeah, he certainly has found it. I've commended him personally for how he's kind of handled himself. I mean, he's hot, and you kind of expect it to go that way for a while. Then he cooled off, but he's found it again, and that's a really good sign for a player early in the season. You never want to struggle, but if you do go through those struggles and you get yourself back around like he is right now, man, oh man, you will find yourself on the All-Star team.
0-1 to Bohr. And the count is 1 ball and 1 strike. Justin Bohr showed signs of life at the end of the Marlins homestand. Had a couple of hits in the 2 games against the Rays. And of course, that great game against the Pirates where he drove in 6. And he watches that sinker dive away. Mets infield is not in an extreme shift for Bour. Although Reyes is drawn towards the middle.
It's a good question that you posed right there. Well, not that you necessarily posed the question. You mentioned that the Mets were playing him a little bit more straight up. But if you remember what Justin Bour did earlier this year in the 7 games against this Mets team, he was actually spraying the ball around the field an awful lot more. And I always find that interesting when we talk about, you know, playing the shift and who shifts and how teams shift. You've got to play to what you believe your pitchers are going to do and then expect it to, you know, obviously work itself out. The Mets have pitched him a particular way this year that requires them to play him a little bit more straight up.
Check swing and a ball down low, and a check down at third and no swing on the appeal. And so the bags are loaded now, and here comes Real Muto. And that easily could have been the way we've seen him this year.
Well, we'll give him credit for this. This is what you do. When you check your swing like that, you just get moving quick. Start making your way down to first base as fast as you can. Get rid of the bat. Don't even look back.
You got to sell it.
You have to sell it.
Dan Warthen is out. The pitch count right now for Montero is pretty extensive. 65 pitches.
He did go 88 pitches on Saturday, his last minor league start. And they certainly need some length from him.
Real Muto struck out back in the 2nd, but a good guy to have up there. Real Muto had a big RBI night on Wednesday when he drove in 4. He was in the leadoff spot in that ball game, the first game in St. Pete. Bags loaded. 2 outs. And a strike. Sharp ground ball. Reyes at short, shovels to second, and the inning is over. Miami leaves them loaded, but gets a run. And it's 1-1. Family has sat through on a chilly night here in the Northeast. Born in the Bronx, New Rochelle home. Stony Brook is where Tom pitched. The stoic face of his family. And Kohler and the Marlins tied 1-1 here in the bottom of the 3rd. Now, earlier we had that note about Jose Reyes and his 5 RBI games and how it's almost 14 years between Reyes having 5 RBIs in a game.
I proceeded to ruin it.
Well, I'm trying to rescue you here.
Please.
And the other two that had done it, Paul Molitor and Pete Rose, and you said, well, wait a minute, is that just 5 RBI games, or maybe they had 6 or 7 RBI games?
They just didn't give him credit for the 5.
No, it was games of 5 or more RBIs.
Right.
Rose had a 6 RBI game in '64, and then not till '78 did he drive in 5 in a game.
Uh-huh. My question was somewhat legitimate.
Well, the question was legitimate.
I just bent it.
Right.
Changed the rules.
Fastball in. Rene Rivera, Rafael Montero, and Michael Conforto. And of course, Rivera's playing time will increase here with Travis d'Arnaud with a sore wrist. d'Arnaud banged his wrist on a bat when throwing down to second on a stolen base. Sat out for a few days, came back in the lineup, actually had some success, hit some home runs, but the wrist acted up, and the Mets have decided just to DL him. That one is shot by Prado, and Rene Rivera has a hit, and that sets up for Montero to try to bunt him to second.
Yeah, they were really hoping to avoid the disabled list with d'Arnaud, just unable to do it. They were kind of holding out and holding out and holding out. Regardless of the production offensively, he needed his spot. So they flip-flopped and got Montero here, but at the same time need to get him healthy. He's off to a good start.
0 for 18 is Montero. Marlins infield looks for 2. Prado creeps in at third. Bohr is holding Rivera. Now this is for managers is a trouble spot. Catcher at first in a bunt spot. In fact, we've seen some managers put the pitcher in the 8th spot if the catcher is not a very good offensive player and ends up normally at the bottom of the lineup, and put the catcher behind the pitcher. A pop-up, and Real Muto runs it down. And the reason is it's a recipe for a double play. If you got a guy that can't run in the 8th spot in the National League and you're constantly trying to sacrifice him to second, that can be troublesome.
Now you see Montero right there jab at it, tried to put it down and ends up popping it up. That's why you don't jab at it. Ball will end up in the air. JT Realmuto makes the catch. Yeah, I was sitting here thinking the same thing. I was almost like, JT, don't catch it. You might be able to turn 2. But, you know, listen, when you're out there, I think we all would catch the baseball, certainly if you have the opportunity to. But with your catcher at first base, you do not have speed on the bases.
Michael Conforto now in the leadoff spot, and a dangerous hitter, a hot hitter. And he takes a strike. Kohler with a changeup on the outside part. Conforto had a quick start last year, slumped mid-season. It was really good for the Mets down the stretch in 2015. And is still incredibly young. I mean, here we've talked about his last 2 major league seasons. He's 24. And he played in college and starred in college at Oregon State. He was the 2-time Pac-12 Player of the Year. And that's in the dirt.
People around baseball, even particularly this winter, were wondering if the Mets were interested in moving Conforto. For pitching or for help or a way of changing up this team. Clearly not going to give up on this young man.
So not like moving him from Flushing to Queens or from Manhattan to Brooklyn. You're talking about moving him to another team.
Yeah, well, I mean, his name is, I mean, it's interesting. It's funny how this game ages you so quickly. To your point on Conforto, he's 24 years old. You don't give up on this type of talent, but his name has kind of been in the, call it the shredder for a little bit, you know, kind of out there. Are the Mets going to give up on him? They've got 3 outfielders already.
Ozuna over towards the line is there, and he makes the catch. And Kohler has retired Conforto twice now. Now this was T.J. Rivera in the first inning.
see the glove right there on JT Realmuto, just kind of worked back towards the inside corner. Rivera just went up there on a mission. He was hunting a fastball early and jumped all over. And I think for Tom Koehler, we talked about in the open his struggle with left-handed hitters, particularly leading off ball games, particularly leading off innings. He was able to strike Conforto out. I don't know if there was a deep breath, but missed with that fastball, and Rivera was ready to pounce.
Well, this guy can hit. There's no question about that. He's done that in the minor leagues. Won the Coast League batting title. Hit .353 last year. And of course, playing half your games in Las Vegas, it's a great hitter's park. And there are some others in the Coast League as well. There's a few pitchers' parks. But .353 with a .393 on base and a .516 slugging percentage.
A good breaking ball tonight from Tom Koehler. He's a little frustrated right there. He's hoping that Rivera would go fishing for that pitch. But again, in and out of the zone, it's what you want. You want that effectiveness on the breaking ball. And you're watching Mets hitters at times check their swings and at times chase. A good pitch for him tonight.
Now, this matchup between Koehler and Rivera is interesting. Koehler is 30, and he was born in the Bronx. Rivera is 28. He was born in the Bronx. Ended up at Wallace Community College and then Troy University for Rivera, and of course Koehler at Stony Brook. Koehler has always played with a chip on his shoulder, feeling that he was going to get drafted much earlier and didn't. Rivera never was drafted. He signed as a free agent, a non-drafted free agent in 2011. You talk about a much larger chip. Swing and a miss, and then Koehler strikes him out. So the Mets go down in a 1-1 start in Flushing tonight. Still misting here in New York. Burger and Beer Fridays. There's a beer. Actually, there's a couple of beers. We were told there was a burger there earlier in the night, but you can get both of those at Marlins Park. Craft beer and a burger and a Marlins game. Friday the 12th, Marlins and Braves, 7:10 start. Tickets start as low as $30. And it is Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Marlins.com for tickets. 8-9-1 for Miami with Miguel Rojas. And you got Tom Kohler and D. Gordon. Rafael Montero called up to make the start. This was to be not only a Noah Syndergaard start, but a Noah Syndergaard weekend. It was his T-shirt night tonight, and tomorrow night is a Mets cap with Syndergaard's hair in it. Not his hair, but Syndergaard type hair. And so they call it the Syndergaard hair hat. Yeah, sort of like that.
I would imagine it's a popular giveaway.
Well,
it's gotta be.
That's the DeGrom hair hat right there. They haven't given that one away yet. Rojas to first. And of course for Syndergaard, what a tumultuous week it was. Oh, he felt like he had a dead arm during the week. The Mets asked him to take an MRI and he said he was fine, did not want to take the MRI, and then a tear in his lat muscle. Now he was re-examined, got a second opinion the other day, and it sounds like maybe not as severe, but still a lat tear is a lat tear. And as Sandy Alderson said, we're not talking about number of days, we're talking about number of weeks.
Well, and I even think the circumstances that led to everything that happened with the lat tear, they're going to proceed with caution.
Runner goes, no one at first, and Rojas, what a heads-up move. Rivera left early from first to charge for the bunt, and Rojas was off like a bolt, and he easily steals second. Watch this.
Look at the lead, and obviously the jump he's able to get right there. This is a brilliant play, but it's imperative that Tom Kohler pick up on it. Great job by TK at home plate. As soon as he sees that, he's got to make sure that he pulls that bat back and doesn't attempt to bunt at it.
As it is, Kohler fouls that one off, so he's behind in the count 0-2. And now the challenge is to try to get Rojas to third.
Now that's the goal. You've now built this inning by taking that pitch right there, but still has to do a job.
The more you see Miguel Rojas play, the more nice things he does.
Love his instincts. Great instincts for this game.
Kohler tries to bunt it and fouls it off. And it goes as a strikeout. Here comes Gordon, and here comes our cold hard facts. Actually, it's not that cold tonight. 60 degrees. There they are. Days lost to the disabled list. The Mets are 5th. The Dodgers sit atop, and you got the Braves number 2, Padres, Rangers. That's since 2012, and it's pitchers specific. D. Gordon here has popped out, struck out. Gordon tries to bunt again and fouls it back. In-game box score, Rojas is 2 for 2 with a stolen base. Gordon sends it to left. Conforto. And there are 2 outs, and that's the, not that he would have scored on that, but it changes the whole at bat. The Marlins are able to bunt him to third, because then Gordon has a different perspective and a different approach. Even Montero has a different perspective and a different approach.
Well, hopefully Prado can pick him up right there and make that all go away. That's what good teams do. They really do start to pick each other up. But that is something that Don Mattingly has really talked about and really stressed, the little things. And you see Rojas heads up play, able to get himself into second base, but again, down the line, then the job not getting done. You find yourself still with a runner at second base and hoping to come up with a big 2-out hit. But that's part of the problem over this last week or 10 days, where you look at the lineup and you look at how these at-bats are going. There's some good ones, and then there's some not so good ones, and then there's a few good ones to go along with it, but it just hasn't really gelled. It hasn't come together. In a perfect world, he would have, you steal second base, you bunt him over to third, maybe you get the sacrifice fly, or they play back in the middle and they give you the run, or all different things can happen. But you watch, like as Tom Kohler was even walking back to the plate, he was really ticked off at himself because he wasn't able to get the bunt down, and it changes the look of this inning.
Now Prado with the count 0-2. Montero has 4 strikeouts. He has walked 3. And his pitch count is approaching 80 here in the 4th. And it's outfield towards right center, and not too deep for Prado. And he rolls it up the middle. Reyes can't get it, and it's into center. Rojas scores, and Prado does pick him up. And Miami's got a 2-1 lead. Reyes, he almost looked like he was in between lunging or diving for the ball. And I would bet you he would like another shot at this one.
Well, that's exactly it. He's got to keep this ball in the infield. He keeps the ball in the infield. He keeps the runner at third, probably from scoring, but unable to do it. Instead of diving, you see Rojas is able to score it quite easily. Just knowing the situation right there.
Here's Yelich now, and you got Prado at first. Yeah, that's kind of between.
Yeah, you might be right. I thought he was a little bit closer to it on the grab where he was going for it with his glove, but again, still pretty far outstretched right there.
So a 2-1 lead. Yelich. And the Mets right now are pounding Yelich in with the elevated fastballs.
Not letting him get his arms extended.
Which 4 years ago, when Yelich first got to the big leagues, people had some success there. As he's gotten a little older, if you make sure you don't tuck it under his hands, he can lose that. And that one was in. It's 1-2. And of course, the home runs for Yelich came last year. And the home runs to right, especially at Marlins Park, where he had not homered much at all. He had 21 homers last year. He had just 7 in 2015.
Look at those percentages. I think it's been so interesting. You know, I obviously watched Christian Yelich very, very closely all season long. And I guess what's really been interesting to me is how organizationally the teams, the opponents that the Marlins have gone up against, how differently they've approached Christian Yelich. There have not been those patterns that you look at as a hitter. That's why I look at, sometimes even the slower numbers. Yelich's numbers right now, he's got a 709 OPS. You say, well, is he going through a little bit of a cold stretch? I think the messages that you look to pick up on as a hitter have been a lot harder for Christian Yelich to decipher this year, because I think everybody really is changing their game plan. It hasn't been like we watched Giancarlo Stanton through a period of time. Fastballs on his hands, sliders low and away. We haven't always seen that with Christian Yelich. Organizations are pitching him a lot different. We've watched the Mets, they're pitching him on his hands. Tampa wanted to go soft away and high fastballs away. So again, that's a completely different pattern for which he's looking for. And hitters generally think if I'm having success, they're going to change their pattern. But if I'm struggling, whether you're playing the same team 2 games in a row or you change teams, the patterns are going to be very much the same.
All right, there's the pattern. You see the fastballs that have been up and in. And a breaking ball low. And so Yelich has run the count to 2-2. And Yelich hasn't been retired yet tonight. He had I believe it was a 9-pitch at bat for a walk in the first inning. It was hit by a pitch in the third when he was behind in the count 0-2. He sits here 2-2. Checks his swing, breaking ball down. And now we showed the pattern. We've identified fastballs in. Montero's gone away from that. Does he go back to it at 3-2?
Well, that would be the pattern, but again, as a hitter, you're looking to defend the strike zone in its entirety. 2-seam fastball is what Montero has been predominantly throwing tonight, again with the slider. I don't think he goes back to the slider here. He's going to throw the fastball. The question is, where does he go? I think it would be on the hands, but
Yelich lines it to left field. Over for it, Conforto. Racing for third is Prado. Yelich with a big turn, and he's got himself a hit. And that's Christian Yelich right there. Great plate discipline. In a 2-strike count, he'll go opposite field.
Right.
You see the major league average at 30.5%.
Well, they decided to trick us all and go change up away, low and away. Not a terrible pitch. Christian Yelich, fantastic job keeping his hands inside the ball. And to those statistics, going the other way. That wasn't accidental. That was deliberate. Stayed on the ball, let it travel, let it get a little bit deeper. Able to line it to left.
Josh Smoker is ready. I refuse to say Smoker is heating up.
Not in this day and age, pal.
No.
Maybe 10, 15 years ago, you might have got away with that one.
Stanton now walked in the first, popped out in the third. At the corners. And Yelich can steal a bag, although Rivera, good catch and throw guy behind the plate. And he gets a strike on a fastball. It's 0-1. Stanton shattered his bat and popped out on the infield in the third. He walked in the first. Stanton in this spot a few times in last night's game. Frustrating game for the Fish. And a 5-1 loss against the Rays.
Well, in my opinion, you can talk about consistency or inconsistency of this offense. I believe so much of the swagger of this Marlins offense is thrust upon the shoulders of this man. When he gets hot, I think people feel differently up and down this lineup and react differently when he's hitting, well, as we showed you in the open, line drive home runs to center field like he did against the Mets.
Last 6 games here, he's got 4 homers. End of the bat, drives it into the corner. Bruce on the run, looking up, and it is a fair ball. In the corner it goes. Prado will score. Holding third is Yelich. Bruce got it out of there quickly. And the Marlins pick up another, and that's the strength of Stanton. End of the bat, it didn't sound good, but it still ends up going 330 feet.
Well, that's the definition of excuse me power, Rich. That's what we all wish we had when we played, and Giancarlo Stanton's got it right there. Short hops the 330 mark down the right field line off the end of the bat. We'll pick up the RBI right there. That's where that pitch was. Did a nice job staying through it.
And so Stanton with an RBI double. And here comes Smoker. Exit Montero. First extra base hit for the Marlins tonight. And they've got a 3-1 lead. runs in the fourth. That just chased Rafael Montero. And now Josh Smoker, a lefty, comes out of the Mets bullpen, and Marcell Ozuna, who has a 7-game hit streak and is hot right now, an RBI single in the third. With runners second and third. We've got Stanton at second and Yelich at third. And there's a look at Smoker. 13 appearances and an intentional walk to Ozuna to face Bohr. So not 4 wide ones, but 4 fingers from the.
I have to write faster every time we have an intentional walk.
Right. And this is what we talked about. I'm sure Bohr was anticipating this. He's in the box and ready to go.
Ready to go.
So bags loaded, Smoker to the plate, and he gets Bohr to pop it foul and out of play.
Now Smoker's got a good arm, 96-mile-an-hour fastball, slider, changeup. If you remember Smoker from all of the games between the Marlins and the Mets, he's thrown a lot of innings against them. He's got a really good changeup and really found a good changeup against the Marlins. Now, the last 3 games, he's got an ERA of 30.86. He's been giving it up, 8 runs his last 2 1/3 innings.
You see Bohr's reaction, didn't like it, but a called strike by Bruce Dreckman. And that time, Bohr had to go out and hunt that pitch. Now the pitch he just hit is the one that was all the way out. The pitch that was called a strike is the one up against the line.
Yeah, and that's Fox Tracks is great for showing you what a hitter has to think. When he sees pitches outside the strike zone, in his mind he also has to now defend them.
One and two. Bases loaded. Bohr and Smoker. Bohr down the line, but he pulled it. And it's into the seats. This year, the Marlins in spring training told Justin Bohr, you're going to play against lefties. You're going to be in there against them. These are his career splits. He has yet to homer against a lefty in his career.
Well, that's going to change at some point. Way too much power to not see that happen.
That's a bullet, and it's going to get down into the corner. Yelich will score. Stanton will score. Ozuna races for third, and Bohr with a belly flop is into second with a 2-run double. And Miami has a 4-run lead. All of this coming with 2 outs.
A lot of chatter tonight. Building innings and putting hits together. Seen it so far in this inning. Great swing by Bohr to pitch up. You see the spray of the water right there. We talked about that a little earlier in the ballgame, how wet that outfield grass is. Going to turn the Jets on there. Stanton able to come around and score. Big base hit by Justin Bohr. 4th double of the season.
JT Real Muto now. And he fouls it back to the screen. Now, I want you to rate the slide. Not bad. 5?
Yeah, it's a 5. Wasn't graceful. He's never going to get a 10.
Are we on a 10? Okay, so we're on a 10-point scale.
It was average. You guys were looking for a little more spray right there, weren't you? Is that what you were looking for?
Well, you never know. Ball and a strike. JT has struck out and bounced into a fielder's choice. Some big hits with 2 outs. Prado RBI single. Yelich with a single. Stanton an RBI double. Bohr a 2-run double. And of course, remember the Mets intentionally walked Ozuna, the first that Smoker faced.
Well, Terry Collins has had some issues with his bullpen this year. 4.80 ERA, whip of 1.55 coming into tonight's ball game. So again, somewhat reluctant to go to certain individuals. A Smoker tonight is a great example. We talked about seeing him earlier in the year and how good he was and how effective Smoker was against the Marlins. I told you that ERA over the last 3 games before he gave up that double to Justin Bour right there. He actually had been perfect with inherited runners, 4 for 4. Well, that's going to change. It has already.
Realmuto with a count 2-2. Ten of 13 have reached with 2 outs. And Realmuto is hit, so make it 11 of 14. And 6 consecutive hitters have reached here with 2 outs. But there's still potential for more damage. And the guy that started it all and had a terrific base running play as well is up here now, Miguel Rojas.
That was this inning?
It was.
That was this inning.
That would have earned you an ejection in the Boston-Baltimore series, right?
Yes, it would have. Breaking balls.
Would have messed that one.
Oh. Caleb Joseph said it best. He just wanted that to be over and done with. It was just too much crazy stuff was going on.
Rojas takes a fastball for a strike. 2 for 2. A little discussion there with Bruce Dreckman. Oh my goodness, he called that a strike. And right now, Rojas and the home plate umpire Bruce Dreckman, look at that. Neither of those are even in the box.
Not even close.
And Dreckman right now getting it from Brian Schneider and everybody on the Marlins bench. I mean, Rojas was pretty diplomatic about the first one. And that's a fair ball. Down the line it goes. Ozuna will score. Ball right behind him. Ball's kicked in right. And Rojas has 3 hits tonight. He drives in 2, and it's 7-1. All of this coming with 2 outs.
I have to ask the question, how do you not go low and in? Well, that's where it was supposed to be. Ends up out over the plate. We've seen it done so many times by Rojas. 0-2, stays inside the baseball and drives it down the right field line. Great piece of hitting. Didn't let those first 2 strikes affect him. Just stayed in there and fought it off. Marlins doing a nice job tonight, just putting together late at bats, 2 strike at bats and fighting.
Watch where the target is. I mean, he wants it way down.
Well, and again, it should be. But I mean, we talk about a struggling relief pitcher, Josh Smoker. I mean, the numbers are bad, have been over the last 3 starts. He's missing location badly, and I think it is explained right there. Gets away with a couple of pitches low and in down by the ankles on Rojas, and then misses out over the plate and up on the 0-2 pitch. Call a 2-out rally.
It's a whale of a 2-out rally. And Kohler swings and misses. Big inning for the Fish. They put 6 up on the board and lead it 7-1.
7-1. Miguel Rojas, 3 for 3 so far tonight. He now has 8 hits since Tuesday. And earlier today, I talked to Rojas about his offense, and he said 2 things have made a huge difference for him so far this season. He had a really good spring training that was able to build his confidence, and he's carried that confidence into the year. He also said consistency. I'm getting more opportunities to play, and that has really helped me. So confidence and consistency, guys. Miguel Rojas getting it done so far this year.
And Jess, you can add to that versatility, which allows Don Mattingly to plug him in at third, plug him in at short, plug him in at second base. And as Perry Hill has told us, he is the best defender the Marlins have wherever you put him. That's saying something.
Don Mattingly credit for getting him in there as well. I think that's as important to understand. Remember, Adeiny Hechavarria has been playing pretty well as well and swinging the bat. It wasn't a situation where it was just going to be as soon as Etch started to swing that bat, Rojas wasn't going to be playing. He's earning himself more playing time. Giving manager Don Mattingly a great problem of figuring out who to go with.
Yeah, Hechavarria has hit in 7 of his last 9 games. Now, Tom Kohler back to work. His ball club has given him a very nice lead here on the road in the bottom of the 4th. 7-1 lead. He goes to work on Jay Bruce. You got Neil Walker, Curtis Granderson, and he hits Bruce. And that brings up Neil Walker. Walker struck out into a double play. JT Realmuto with a great tag by Rojas finished the first.
For Tom Kohler, mission now becomes to stretch this out, make the next 50 or so pitches aggressive, purposeful, attack this Mets lineup. He's got the 7-1 lead right now, and he's looking for a long, lengthy start. Marlins have only had 1 quality start from their staff in the last 9 ball games.
Remember the at bat by Rojas. One of those pitches on the right was actually called a strike. So that's a problem spot right now for Bruce Dreckman, is that side of the plate. One pops off the glove hand of Realmuto.
You have to figure that Dreckman is probably picking up on that, because he's getting those glares and those looks from both dugouts on that particular side of the plate. Not just the Marlins as well. You know, Walker and Conforto both had some looks back. Bruce Dreckman on a couple of low pitches as well.
Remember, it was Bruce who was caught stealing. Although down 6 here in the 4th, you wouldn't expect him to be running again, but you never know. In the air, Yelich. And there's 1 out here in the 4th. South Florida Honda dealers, get you ready for the Marlins and the Mets tomorrow night. Marlins Live, Craig Minervini and Preston Wilson. Who gets the start? It sounds like Odrisamer Despaigne up from New Orleans. And a preview of Game 2. Robert Gazelman gets the start for the Mets. Here's Granderson. Granderson hit a hot smash that Rojas made an acrobatic stop on. Now the Marlins will shift Granderson, but they'll keep Prado at home. And with less than 2 strikes, you always, especially with the left-handed bat in a shift, wary of a bunt. Kohler misses in.
Well, Granderson has shown against the Marlins a willingness to attempt it. So you have to respect that defensively.
That one fouled at the plate. And now that there's 2 strikes, and the Marlins do this, some other teams do as well, they'll keep a third baseman in that spot because a third baseman is more accustomed to fielding a bunt. And now that there's 2 strikes, the threat of a bunt pretty much off the board. So that's Prado now on the first base side of second, and Rojas moves over to that shortstop spot. Granderson gets into one. Right center field and deep. Stanton is back, and it's gone. Just his second of the season.
It's an elevated fastball right out over the plate. So JT Realmuto's glove. Curtis Granderson right on time, able to elevate, take it out to right center field for a 2-run home run. Tom Kohler's issues with the long ball continue. Now the 6th home run by a left-handed hitter.
Most of the National League now, Kohler at 9, as you pointed out, 6 of the 9 against lefties. TJ Rivera, a right-handed bat here tonight in the first. And now Granderson, a 2-run shot. And of course, you hear the term shutdown inning. Pitchers use it, managers use it, pitching coaches as well. And that is when your team puts some runs up, is come back out and keep things quiet. And the Marlins put 6 on the board in the top of this inning. And while the Mets obviously have scored just the 2 runs, it's still a little bit of momentum. Flores with a count 3-1.
Well, you certainly have to respect what this Mets offense has been doing over the last week or so. 12 homers coming into today's ball game. You've got the Rivera and now Granderson. This 14 home runs over your last 7 ball games from the Mets. I mean, they've been rolling. They've been averaging just under 8 runs a ball game coming into tonight's ball game. So even with that lead, this Mets offense has been firing on all cylinders.
It's very Collins. And the Mets hit a ton of home runs last year, 218, which was a team record. Jam shot, and that's trouble. It's behind the mound. Kohler diving, can't get it. It's a real blind spot when you are able to, and it's not easy, get something behind the mound. And Kohler had his glove on it and then couldn't hold it.
A for effort, unfortunately unable to make the catch. This is no man's land. Absolutely. Only Tom Kohler even has a shot at catching that ball. That was not a big league pop-up by definition. That was a jam shot with really nothing on it. Valiant effort to secure the catch.
Now Reyes, who bounced out back in the second. Ball and a strike and an out. Reyes to right center field. Stanton is there and he runs it down. He's a big man, Giancarlo Stanton. But there are plays that he makes in the outfield that remind you he was a wide receiver and a corner and still quite large in high school.
Well, and this is one of them. He's able to long stride it, as we'd say. Does a great job of getting that good first step to his right and able to get those long legs of his in gear. That is a touchdown to the corner of the end zone. Great running catch by Giancarlo Stanton.
Can you imagine being a diminutive wide receiver in high school and you split out wide left and the corner that comes out to greet you is Stanton?
No. I'm no part of that. It's a big man right there.
Or you're a corner, right?
Good luck covering him.
Yeah, and the wide receiver that comes to your side,
I'd give him the under. I'll take the over.
He was probably 6'4", 6'5" in high school. Rene Rivera to center. Yelich goes back, and in the big part of the park, he makes the catch. The Mets play long ball and get 2 back on the Granderson homer. In New York tonight, the Marlins, a 7-3 lead over the Mets. Rich Waltz, Todd Hollingsworth, Jessica Blaylock, all of that, except the very beginning, happened with 2 outs. Breaking ball misses out. D. Gordon, top of the order. And Gordon is 0 for 3. The Marlins, as a team, have 9 hits. And a slew of big ones. 3 run-scoring doubles with 2 outs in the 4th inning. Miguel Rojas, Justin Bour, Giancarlo Stanton. Ouch. Gordon clipped by the fastball from Josh Smoker.
You see it right there. It's just a fastball that gets away. Catches him on the elbow guard. Gordon will gladly take it down to first base. It's been an interesting ball game. How many is that the 5th hit batter we've got in this ball game through 5 innings?
Well, let's see. There've been 2 Marlins hit, right? Real Muto and Yelich, and now Gordon. So that's 3. Jay Bruce Now you get, so that's 4.
4.
But it seems like none of them have been hit in a.
Yeah, I'm just on. I'm on alert from the Orioles series, the Boston, and I'm surprised we haven't seen a warning or something yet. I guess.
Well, I mean, everyone's been hit by either breaking balls or in a pitcher's count.
Correct.
There goes Gordon on the run. Rivera's throw is high, and that allows Gordon to get under the tag. Told you that Rivera can catch and throw and do it well, and the catch and release was good. But if the throw is a little lower, he may have had Gordon.
Well, and JT Realmuto does this so well. The throws are almost always low to one side of the bag. I mean, that's the difference right here. You see where that ball is. When it's high, you got to wait for it till it gets there, and then you got to drop the tag. D able to get underneath it right there.
Prado is
base.
2 for 3. Martin a couple of singles. His 4th inning hit really started that 2-out rally, made it 2-1, and then a bunch of hits followed. If you want to take an inventory, Gordon, you're not going to throw at Gordon leading off an inning here in the 5th.
Absolutely. It's just it's the quantity is what I'm getting at more than anything. I mean, we've had 4 guys hit, and I think we're all on alert here. If we follow Major League Baseball and everything that happened in that Red Sox series against the Baltimore Orioles. But we've had 4 tonight.
Well, Realmuto
halfway through this game.
Realmuto, a slow breaking ball hit him in the leg. Yelich, it was a back foot breaking ball, hit him in the foot. And then there's no way Kohler is going to hit Bruce in the 4th, leading off the inning.
Not after the big inning that was just put up by the
leading
Marlins.
7-1.
Right.
There's Prado dumping it just foul. That was nearly a hit. And of course, I mean, that brings up another point for Kohler, that a costly hit batter, because that opened the door a bit for the Mets, and Granderson's home run was a 2-run shot, scoring Bruce. So it's 7-3. Marlins on top of the Mets in New York. This is a weekend series. We'll be here all weekend. This game has been played in a bit of a drizzle. Seems to have let up. It was a drizzling first couple of innings. And you can see that the crowd certainly affected a Friday night here. Draws much better than this. But it's chilly. Temperatures in the 50s now. An enormous amount of rain today in this New York area. And flooding in different spots. Gordon gets back somehow.
Josh Smoker is going to pick off D. Gordon, but he doesn't have Jose Reyes to throw to quite yet. Reluctant to kind of fire a strike to Reyes on the move. Waits just a second and kind of gives him a half-hearted throw. Gordon able to get underneath it.
He picked Reyes off as well.
Yeah. Well, he also didn't want to throw that lead pass back to second base. He was very hesitant about letting go of the baseball.
Count 2-2 to Prado. Struck him out, and Prado puts his hands up in the air.
Looks like it's hunting in underneath the hands of Martin Prado. See the frustration in his eyes right there as he walks off.
Now Yelich. Smoker gets a strike. And it's 0-1. Yelich, 3 plate appearances, 1 for 1. Walked in the first and took a breaking ball off the back foot.
Fastball for a strike right there. Comes down to the count 0-2.
Remember, we showed that box of the last Yelich at bat, and all the against a right-hander, all the fastballs that were up and in. And of course, Yelich ended up singling, lining a pitch to left. And in true Yelich form, he's been in deep counts all night.
.31 pitches for Smoker. He's had to work tonight as well.
Yelich a ground ball to third. Flores, Gordon is dashing across the diamond, and he's going to get there. Flores makes the play on Yelich. And that's going to bring Stanton up with a runner at third base.
Say, why do this? You're already in scoring position. Well, here's the thing. You really do force the Mets to make sure that they're pitching and catching. As far as wild pitches or pass balls are concerned, they're on their game. They have to keep everything in front. Sometimes you can change the sequencing. Stanton coming up, that is a real possibility. Good aggressive play by D. Gordon right there.
And Terry Collins is going to go to his bullpen. 7-3. Marlins on top. Tomorrow on FS1, Indians and Royals. On FS1, it starts at 3 Eastern, or streams live on Fox Sports Go. Miami has scored all of their runs with 2 outs. And so there's 2 outs. And with Giancarlo Stanton at the plate, rather than let the lefty Josh Smoker face him, Fernando Salas comes in, and Stanton goes after the first pitch fastball and pops it up on the infield. Flores is there, and he makes the catch. Halfway through in New York, 7-3 Miami. Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by Jeep. Get great deals on the Jeep lineup at the Jeep Spring Clearance event. By Supercuts, save time. Check in online with our mobile app or at supercuts.com. And by your South Florida Chevy dealers. New York City, Marlins have enjoyed their stay up here in 2017. They won 2 of 3 early. Heck, it's still early. And this is the second time the Marlins have been here. Breaking ball from Kohler for a strike.
Our next trip back here is tennis time.
That's right. Late August, U.S. Open. Matt Reynolds for the Mets is pinch hitting here. Reynolds arrived here a week ago, hitting 300 in Las Vegas in 13 games with the 51s. Sharp ground ball. Rojas at short and throws him out. Time now for the Toyota Inside Look, brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. This is game number 1,000 for Terry Collins here. And you look at what he's been able to do in 1,000 games, postseason in the last 2 seasons, and of course a World Series appearance in 2015. And he's going to pass Davey Johnson here in a couple weeks. Collins, when he arrived here in New York, he had such an odd assortment on the roster.
Yes.
Very dysfunctional roster the first few years, as the Mets were, trying to figure out which direction they were headed. They were sort of treading water. He had, at one point, I remember he had like 7 outfielders.
Right.
None of whom could play center. I mean,
it was one of the most complicated rosters in all of baseball. And what Terry has done is get that group to play above expectation, at least in my personal opinion, and many around the game, which earned him the opportunity with the group that he has now. And I think it speaks volumes to the type of manager that he is, and the ability as one of the older managers in the game of baseball to relate to the younger player.
3-0 they count to Conforto. He has struck out and popped out. Mets have 3 runs, 2 homers tonight, and Conforto takes out. Kohler walks him, and that brings up Rivera, who's homer. Terry Collins has, to me, had a fascinating career in baseball. Long-time minor league manager. He was a shortstop in the minor leagues for 10 years. He got his break coaching with Jim Leland in Pittsburgh. In fact, that's why he wears number 10 in honor of Leland. He was on that 92 and that 93 Pirate team. Got opportunities to manage both in Anaheim and in Houston. Had good teams there, but finished second a lot. And that was before the modern day wild card of 2 wild card teams. Kohler fastball is up. And when things didn't go well, he had a label as being too intense. And so rather than,
can only be as tense as the team that you have, and I think that's very subjective. I always found that to be very interesting.
Well, but the interesting to me is, okay, so he works so long and hard to get to the big leagues as a coach. Then he puts himself in a position, coaching for Jim Leland, to manage in the big leagues, and he has some good teams and does a pretty good job, but doesn't quite get to the postseason. Now, before those banners went up there, so what does he do? He goes and manages in Japan for a couple of years, and then he managed the China team in the World Baseball Classic back in 2009. Harlan Garcia is up. Then he comes over and he is in the Mets front office, and the Mets end up turning to him to manage, and he has to, for 3-4 years, like we said, tread water. And then all of a sudden, Sandy Alderson's master plan takes hold, and the Mets obviously in 2015 had a terrific year, got to the World Series. Breaking ball, Rivera hits in the air, Over for it is Stanton, long run, and it's foul ball.
Now, every manager, anybody associated with the game of baseball who has any kind of length to one's career, whether it's as a player, coach, a manager, being able to adapt to your surroundings is a key ingredient to success at this level.
And that's the one thing that Collins talked about when he started managing here in New York, is that from the first 2 runs that he had with the Angels and the Astros, even though he did taste some success, he said he has adjusted and he has changed. Up the middle, Gordon sweeps it, Rojas turns it, and Miami gets a double play.
Good meeting, Juan Nieves.
And just like that, with help from Juan Nieves, Tom Kohler gets a double play. Miami up 7-3 here. Kohler getting a nice double play ball to get through that 5th inning. 9 hits for the Marlins. All 7 runs have come with 2 outs for the Fish. And the Mets are already 3 deep into their bullpen. This is Hansel Robles.
You see the numbers: 1.76 ERA, 15 in the 3rd innings already this year. 2-seam fastball, 4-seam fastball, good slider to go along with it.
Robles gets Marcell Ozuna, Justin Bour, and JT Realmuto. If you are just happening by this ball game and you see the score, the Marlins fell behind early. Second hitter for the Mets in the first, TJ Rivera, cranked a homer to left. Ozuna, center field, deep, over the head of Granderson, off the wall, and a scorching hot Ozuna in a ball of flames arrives at second base.
Ball of flames.
He's about to spontaneously combust. He's got 2 hits, a double to go with an RBI single.
Well, that earns you a first pitch slider out over the plate. Ozuna just keeps his hands back, not surprised by it at all. But drive it over Curtis Granderson's head. Anything that meets his barrel right now is either banging off a wall or going over it. And the base hit earlier in the ball game probably would have found itself all the way at the wall if Granderson hadn't cut it off.
So a leadoff double. Here's Bour now against the right-hander in Robles. The Marlins tied the game in the 3rd. Marcell Ozuna's RBI single. But in the 4th, that was the big inning. With 2 outs, just a slew of big hits. Bohr himself had a 2-run double. Stanton had an RBI double. Prado had an RBI single. Yelich had a base hit. All of this is with 2 outs. And Miguel Rojas, who led the inning off with a single, also a 2-run double to end the inning. Rojas has got 3 hits and 2 RBIs. And significantly, Bohr's 2-run double came against the lefty, Josh Smoker. And he absolutely drilled it to right. It was a line drive.
He's got a tough catch here in Hansel Robles, who has dominated left-handed hitters coming into tonight's ball game to go along with his 10 1/3 scoreless inning streak. Left-handed hitters are 1 for 17 against him this year. Christian Bohr looking to at least pull the ball to the right side. The Marlins look to add on.
And of course, Robles knows that, so he's trying to exploit that. And there are the splits that you mentioned. They call that in baseball parlance reverse splits, because more often than not, a lefty hits better against righties than he does lefties. And a fastball finishes off Bohr. And Ozuna still at second base. Here's Real Muto, and then you got Rojas and then Kohler. So I'm sure Robles is thinking, look, if I can get Real Muto here, there's nobody throwing in Miami's bullpen. So if he can get Real Muto, they'll probably walk Rojas, who is 3 for 3. And pitch to Kohler. So this is a big spot for Real Muto. And JT fouls it off. Craig Minervini had the Nationals and the Phillies, and the highlights from that ball game. It's 4-0. Nationals on top in the 7th. He told you about the Steven Strasburg home run. How about Ryan Zimmerman? You saw that as well. A dozen now for Zimmerman. And for good measure, Anthony Rendon has homered as well.
Well, for Zimmerman, he's hitting .431 on the season. Absolutely amazing story. So many people who watch the Nationals and have watched that team for a long time really are. They had an incredible April, 170 runs scored. Zimmerman, in so many ways, has been the key. It hasn't been the resurgence of Harper. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from the lefties, but so many people peg Zimmerman as the key to that lineup, as that balancing act, and he is having an absolutely torrid start to his 2017 campaign. Remember last year, he was the guy that they were avoiding Harper to get to Zimmerman.
There were a few preseason publications which we study dutifully in February and March preparing for the season. There's your standings, that thought by mid-season Zimmerman might be replaced or just a role-playing bench guy at the time. And
honestly, a lot of people thought he might be that already.
2-2 coming to Real Muto. JT pulls a ground ball into left field. That's a hit. Ozuna will hold third. And JT Real Muto with a single. Now, that probably prevents the Mets from walking Rojas. And just now, and whether it's legit or not, you never know, Garcia's back up in the bullpen. He just popped up. Now, he had thrown a little bit about 10-15 minutes ago. He's up again, and Ichiro is on deck. Whether Kohler is done or not, we're not sure yet, and it may depend on what happens here with Rojas, who's only gone 3 for 3 in this ball game. 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 3 for 3 in this and is 7 for 8 on this road trip. Remember Frank Menachino last year talking about Rojas and his approach, and when he has success is when he doesn't try to do too much, when he doesn't try to really back foot a ball, and because he has a tendency every now and then to get one of those slugger swings down out there. But you know, Frank told everybody and told Rojas in particular, look, you just stay in the approach and go middle and away, you're going to get your hits. And you know, Jessica's report earlier about Rojas in spring training, that's what he was in spring training. Short to the ball, line drives, and he has continued that here into the regular
And
season.
you stay engaged and involved with that. You see JT room, you know, peeking in there. I love to see that. Guys getting off first, trying to steal a couple signs, and stealing signs, just looking in there. There's every right to see what's going on if you can. But back to Rojas, yeah, it's what he is. I mean, I've been watching Echeverria, and I was thinking earlier this year, through some of the struggles and the injury with Etch, but his approach was so good. He was using his hands, was going the other way, and then he really just started to kind of come into his own when he got back off the disabled list. And it was so good to see because he was staying with the game plan. Rojas has done this since spring training, and it's been so much fun to watch. He realized how much value you have, and it's such an interesting conversation because as hitters, as players, there's Frank Menachino right there. Masterful job with a lot of these young guys. In order to get into the psyche or into the mind of a hitter, you have to get him to buy into what you're selling.
There's that swing I was talking about. Every now and then
you see the count right there. So you're like, you know, listen, we're up by 4. It happens every now and again.
He'll let it eat, as they say.
Well, and here's the thing. When you play your game, you realize how much more involved, engaged, and value he has. Think back to the stolen base because of the approach. Again, he's on base more consistently. You have a better feel for the game. Both the Marlins shortstop, and I'm including Rojas and Echeverria, I was asked, should Echeverria be doing more offensively? And I've said, since I have come over here, absolutely. I see great hand-eye coordination. I see tremendous athleticism, and I see the instincts to be able to handle the bat. There's no reason that his numbers in past should be what they are. And what you're seeing now is both of these guys really starting to develop what their skill set should be at the major league level. This isn't, I mean, does his value increase if I told you he hit 8 home runs as opposed to 5? I don't think you're going to look at that any different. But I do, we definitely recognize a change in the bat hand.
And he pops it up, and it's caught there by Rivera. And it looks like the Marlins are going to pull the trigger on Ichiro here, which means Tom Kohler is done after 5 innings. And so that's why that at bat from Rojas and Bohr, for that matter, was so important. If the Marlins were able to get something before Kohler came up, as it is, Don Mattingly is going to bring Ichiro in. And Robles has 2 outs. And Ichiro takes outside. Now, last night, Dan Straley went 5. The Marlins lost on the road, so 3 innings out of the pen. It was Nick Whitgren, Jose Urena, and Junichi Tazawa, all for an inning apiece. And Ichiro pops it up. On the outfield grass, Walker calls and makes the catch. And the Marlins come up empty in the 6th, lead 2, and now turn to their bullpen with a 7-3 lead. In the bottom of the 6th, Don Mattingly, Tom Kohler talking over the decision. A couple things happened here. Obviously, the Marlins had a chance to get runs. Kohler has gone 5, and he finishes at 78 pitches. The Mets have in the 6th Jay Bruce, the switch hitting Neil Walker, and Curtis Granderson. So potentially 3 left-handed bats to face Kohler. And we've talked about Kohler has been vulnerable to the lefty bat, and Granderson has a 2-run homer tonight. So those are all things to consider. As it is, Harlan Garcia is in, and the ballpark pass is in as well for just $199, and that's 20 tickets that can be used in the month of May and June, and all those tickets go right to your smartphone. Just don't lose it like me. The smartphone, that is. A Marlins ballpark pass comes with 4 tickets to the MLB All-Star Fan Fest. So, ballpark pass gets you 20 tickets to a game in May or June, and 4 tickets to Fan Fest. Some restrictions apply. So here's the parade of lefties, and here's Garcia, who's been a really pleasant surprise, called up in a pinch after that 16-inning game against the Mets. And the only reason they brought him up is, look, all of a sudden, with all the guys that worked, they needed an arm for the next day. Nick Wickren, who had options, meaning the Marlins could send him down as opposed to any other pitcher and not expose him to waivers. Bruce to right, not very deep. Yelich is there. Wickren, who pitched 3 scoreless innings in that game, had to go down. And you thought at the time that this would just be temporary. Wickren will be back in 10 days. And Garcia will, coming up and getting to pitch in the big leagues for the first time, go back down. But a funny thing happened. He pitched really well. And all of a sudden, he's a lefty out of the pen. Wickren is back, which is good to see for him.
Knew that was coming. At some point, well, I mean, Garcia, lefties are 0 for 9 against him. I mean, what more do you want? I mean, you know, you look at the work, the body of work.
Misses up with a fastball.
He certainly didn't deserve to go back down. I mean, again, I know numbers crunch, and certainly we could have the conversation about Wickren, because Wickren didn't deserve to go down either, but it's sometimes what happens up here.
The only question for us is, do we have options? You ran out of them long ago. Gordon is there. Makes the catch. I never had any option. You did. But you ran out of them in a nice major league career. Granderson here. Uh-oh. Skip and Shannon. And don't they look angry or serious? Every weekday morning, these two guys go head-to-head on the hottest sports topics, undisputed, Skip and Shannon, from 9:30 to noon on FS1. Granderson's 2-run homer off Kohler in the 4th. He was robbed of a hit by Rojas in the 2nd. And look out, Tom Goodwin. Tom Goodwin's a smart man, coaching down at first.
Goody.
This is the home run.
Yeah, this is a 2-strike fastball that ends up out over the plate. Talked about the lefties, and we've talked about the homers. I think that's why you see Garcia in the ball game now. Just made too much sense.
And a strike. 2-2.
Tell you, as impressive as his stuff is, I've been just as impressed with Garcia's poise. He just continues to be aggressive going up against lefties and righties. And with each opportunity he's been given by Don Mattingly, I find myself more impressed. It's like his confidence is growing right in front of our eyes. Think back to the first time the Marlins called him into a ball game back in early April to what we see now. I couldn't imagine the Marlins sending him down.
No, he's a valuable piece in the bullpen for a team in a division where you need somebody to get lefties out, especially against the Mets and the Nationals. 2-2. Breaking ball, ground ball up the middle. That's Prado turning back the clock to his old second baseman days as a Brave. Garcia, a 1-2-3, and it's 7-3 Fish.
Ball game in the top of the 7th inning. Hey, Fish family, just a reminder, the ballots have officially opened up for the 2017 All-Star Game, which will be played at Marlins Park. So be sure to go online and cast your vote for which Marlins players you think are All-Star worthy. Visit marlins.com/vote. You can vote a total up to 35 times, 5 times in a 24-hour period. But just a reminder, the polls do close on June 29th, so be sure to get your votes in as soon as possible. Guys.
All right, thank you, Jessica. D. Gordon, a 2-time All-Star, coming to the plate. Gordon is 0 for 3. Hit by a pitch, has a stolen base. Miami a 7-4 lead, 11 hits for the Fish. And the parade of relievers continues for the Mets. And we may see a lot of this from both teams the rest of the weekend. Jerry Blevins, who's had a fine season. And he grooves in a fastball for a strike, and it's 0-1. Rafael Montero started 3 2/3. Josh Smoker, Fernando Salas, Hansel Robles, and now Blevins. And I say both teams because if you missed it earlier, Wei-Yin Chen was placed on the 10-day disabled list with a, I guess, what is it, dead arm was the term. So he's going to miss a start tomorrow. And of course, Edinson Volquez on the DL with a blister. He's going to miss at least a start. Flip to first, and Gordon is out. Blevins gets the first out of the 7th inning. And so the Marlins will probably start Odrisamer Despaigne, the Cuban right-hander, who's been pitching in New Orleans. That would be tomorrow. Urena is going to start on Sunday. And of course, the Marlins don't have much breathing room in terms of Monday, because they're right at it with the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals in for a 3-game series starting Monday night.
The Mets feeling better about their circumstances over the last week because their offense has really started to respond and kind of protect, if you will, that rotation. Marlins are looking to do the same thing, and they're off to a good start tonight. I just showed you the box score, the lineup, contributions up and down, and that's a sign of a good team, a good bounce back game where everybody contributes. Big inning, 6 2-out runs.
Prado takes down low. Prado tonight has 2 hits. He's 2 for 4. And a strike there. Remember, Prado was the best in, I believe, in baseball. I know National League against lefties last year. Like a .424 average. So far this year, he's at .333. This is just his 10th at bat against a lefty. And he lines one into right field, and it gets by Bruce. Prado, though, will hold first. Didn't get by that far. Bruce spun around and grabbed the ball before Prado could get second.
3rd hit of the ball game for Martin Prado. Classically shoots one the other way.
And here comes Yelich now. Mets have a right-hander up. The Marlins have Brad Ziegler up in their bullpen. There is Ziegler. The Mets bullpen is right next door. It's sort of a bi-level effect. There you go.
Very interesting perspective right there.
Fastball misses in.
I don't think I'd like to be in the Mets bullpen.
Would you rather be in the Marlins bullpen?
Oh, yeah, they're higher. See how much higher Brad. Yeah, there's dominance in that.
So the Marlins pen may have a city view, and the Mets pen is territorial view.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the listing online. Yelich rolls it up the middle. Might be 2. Walker backhands, and Reyes turns it. And Miami is done in the 7th. 7th inning stretch. Play that fun Italian song. It's 7-3 Marlins. When it broke open for Miami, a 1-1 game, and the Marlins got their first run with 2 outs in the inning, and then the hits just kept coming. Giancarlo Stanton, an RBI double into the corner. Justin Bour against the lefty smoker. That's a 2-run double. Fish weren't done yet. Miguel Rojas sneaks it down the line. 2 more come home, and Miami had 6 2-out runs in that big 4th inning. Chena Luna is the song. I always love it when he announces second stanza. That's a tradition here, a great tradition.
Second stanza.
Here in New York. It was at the Big Shea and is still here at Citi Field. Brad Ziegler on the mound for Miami. Ziegler's ERA a 1.35. 15th appearance, and Ziegler submarines in a strike to Wilmer Flores.
See, like, this is like you're the Marlins bullpen, not the Mets bullpen right now.
That's right, because I'm standing. I'm at a much higher level.
See, I feel dominated. I get it.
Well, if you want to stand too, then you'll
I don't have the room to, so we're not going to do that.
liner to right. Stanton comes in. And he has to barehand it on the hop. Flores has a hit. Well, the Marlins bullpen called upon with a 4-run lead to not just get 3 outs or 6 outs or 9 outs, but to get 12 outs. Coming in the 6th inning, Harlan Garcia retired all 3 that he faced. And now here is Reyes trying to bunt, and I would suspect Reyes was trying to bring that with him down the first baseline because Bohr is holding Flores at first. Reyes 0 for 2. Jose Reyes turns 34 in mid-June. Now there is some Cinco de Mayo. We did not see a lot of Cinco de Mayo stuff.
Doesn't feel like it. I think it's the weather.
Yeah, maybe it was the 2 inches.
It feels more like March.
The 2 or 3 inches of rain that fell in Manhattan today. You think that?
That and the temperature, it's cooling off here.
Ziegler now has fallen behind 3-0. And he gets a low strike. Those are the career numbers for Reyes. This is year number 15. And he swings wildly at the changeup, and it counts 3-2. Of course, Reyes 9 years with the Mets to begin with. 4-time All-Star at that point. Won a batting title as well. 3-2 coming. And Reyes gets it by Bohr into the corner. Stanton goes to get it. Racing for third is Flores. And he'll hold there. And the Mets with a pair of hits to greet Brad Ziegler.
Ziegler able to pick up a couple of strikes at the bottom of the zone. Fortunately, he's going to get a pitch up. Watch the glove. You see right there, that's the no-no zone for Ziegler. He doesn't want to make pitches up there. He loses his sink. Above the belt, it's the hitting zone for any hitter against Ziegler. See Reyes ripping into the right field corner.
Here is Rivera. Rene Rivera into left, and the Mets draw closer. 7-4. 3 consecutive hits against Brad Ziegler. And as Drupal Cabrera now is going to come up as a pinch hitter.
Will represent the tying run in this ball game. Said it many times. Great thing about Ziggs, one ground ball away. Gets him as well as anybody in the game.
Cabrera fights that pitch off. Reyes at third base. The catcher Rene Rivera is at first. Ground ball, base hit, center field. And the Mets have 4 consecutive hits against Brad Ziegler, and this game is now 7-5.
Well, gets the ground ball. Unfortunately, D. Gordon playing him over to the right side right there, so you see the hole back through the box. We're able to find some green grass.
Juan Nieves out to talk to Ziegler, and more importantly to buy some time for Miami's bullpen. And it's Kyle Bearclaw. And so Bearclaw in Miami's pen. Ziegler, and this has been against the bottom of the order for the Mets. Now you've got Conforto, T.J. Rivera, and Jay Bruce. Now you get into some powerful left-handed bats in Conforto and Bruce. And there's nobody out. And the tying run is now at first base on a night where the Marlins at one point had a 7-1 lead. Conforto with runners in scoring position. Very, very good. And of course the Mets' first 3 runs came on a pair of homers. This inning brought their first at bat with a runner in scoring position of the night. And they're 2 for 2 now in that spot. Ball and a strike. Conforto has 7 homers.
Changeup's been a tricky pitch for Ziegler here his last couple outings. Really unable to command it to the left-handed hitter on that outside corner. Usually such a big pitch, gets a lot of swings and misses at it.
His last appearance against the Rays, it really wasn't the hits that bothered him. You see T.J. Rivera on deck. It was control. He walked 3 in 2/3 of an inning. Gets a strike. 3-2.
Sometimes the effectiveness. This is a spot that Conforto never probably thought he was going to see a fastball of Ziegler underneath his hands right there. Perfect pitch. Very effective. He was looking out away.
(3-2) into center. 5th consecutive hit. Holding third is Rivera. Unbelievable. 5 consecutive hits. Bags are loaded. There's nobody out. The Marlins shifting. And Conforto against the shift.
You know, we've talked about it many times. Playing the shift, you've got to pitch to the shift, and if hitters are willing to go against it, and you've seen it the last couple of base hits. Balls are getting through. There's nobody there. Nobody's home.
So, Miami, it feels like, is clinging to a 2-run lead. The Mets have 5 consecutive hits. T.J. Rivera, who's homered, is up. Ziegler has yet to get an out. And that one is clobbered to left by Ozuna. To the wall it goes. 2 runs come home. Conforto to third. And the Mets have tied it on 6 consecutive hits.
Now down the middle at the knees. Does not have the sinking action that he's looking for right there. And Rivera able to level off and rip it into the left field corner. Starts the merry-go-round for this Mets team. 6 consecutive hits.
Well, Miami had a 6-run 4th. The Mets have 4 here in the 7th. Nobody out. T.J. Rivera has knocked in 3 tonight. And an exit for Ziegler. In comes Bearclaw. Very good this year. But here tonight, with a 4-run lead, 6 consecutive hits. The lead is lost. It's 7 apiece. But there's nobody out, and he exits, and Kyle Bearclaw arrives for Miami.
Well, think how much knowledge has been exchanged between these two teams. This is the 8th meeting between them. Here we are in early May. Think of Ziegler and his effectiveness, and sometimes it's as simple as just saying the team's had too many looks at him. Look at it right there. That's 6 consecutive hits, and I think this series is going to be very, very interesting to see how it plays out. All of the knowledge that has been exchanged between these two teams. From Smoker to Ziegler, as you see there, the things that worked earlier in the season are fresh in everybody's memory.
Here is Bruce now, who has walked, hit by a pitch, and has flied out. Now Miami is shifting again with 3 infielders on the right side. The Mets twice have knocked hits to the opposite side of the shift, and there's a strike from Bearclaw. It's 0-1, and you have made a note of how the Mets offensively were really swinging it on the road trip. They took 2 of 3 in DC and 2 of 3 in Atlanta.
Coming into tonight's ball game, the Mets were hitting .390 with runners in scoring position over their last 6 ball games.
AARP presents Getting to Know Jay Bruce. Master plumber. His dad was a plumber. A commit to Tulane. He's going to play for the Green Wave. And a big splash when he arrived in the big leagues, for sure. Bruce swings and misses. Bearclaw gets a strikeout. And so that's the first out of the inning. And now here's Walker.
Bearclaw, bury that slider. It's exactly where you want it, in the no-hit zone. Triggers that reaction from the hitter. He wants to go for it. He sees it in the hitting zone. The ability to get it out of that zone proves its effectiveness. Picks up the strikeout.
Now let's see how Miami plays their infield here with Walker up. I mean, it is the bottom of the 7th, and it looks like the Marlins are going to bring the infield in and keep the shift. But of course, you bring the infield in and you run the risk of giving up 2 runs, not just 1, if a ground ball gets through that you might have been able to dive and knock down. So that's the gamble you take and the price you pay, trying to cut off 1 run.
Part of that is how much you trust the man on the mound as well. Kyle Bearclaw, one of the most effective relievers in the National League.
Highest strikeout rate per 9 innings out of a National League bullpen last year. Walker on a fastball, and that's the thing about Bearclaw. 98 miles an hour on the fastball, and he has the wipeout slider.
And again, it's also occasionally, much like he did to Jay Bruce, throw it for a first pitch strike, so it has to be respected that way. So it's not as simple as a left-handed hitter saying spin and saying lay off. If Bearclaw throws it for strikes too, he becomes that much more of a weapon, and able to do that so far tonight.
0-2. Got him. Bearclaw has punched out 2, and now Granderson will come to the plate.
Watch this, Rich. Look at that go zone. You see it? That's above the knees, out of the hand, and in the dirt by the time it crosses home plate, able to pick up another strikeout. Job is not completely finished yet, but he's done a nice job so far this inning, getting the Marlins out of trouble.
1 to get, and it's Granderson, a 2-run homer in the 4th. He's bounced out twice, and the Marlins are shifting again here with Granderson. 3 infielders on that first base side. And it's 1-0. Michael Conforto had a base hit. There's your shift. TJ Rivera with a 2-run double. He's out at second. Here's a 1-0. Good take by Granderson and a good block by Real Muto. And that's one of the challenges with catching Bearclaw with the wipeout slider. It's a wipeout slider to the hitter, and it's a wipeout slider to the catcher sometimes.
Right. That's JT always kind of stepping up his game when Kyle comes into the ball game, just because there's so much late movement on that slider.
2-0 pitch. Anderson has let it go. Wilmer Flores.
Well, and that's the other thing that you have to consider here. Listen, Granderson represents certainly left-handed threat. Now they're going to intentionally walk him right here, which makes some sense. Bearclaw didn't want to make a mistake to Granderson, who's got a 2-run homer in the ball game. He's got Flores up next. But struggling of late. He does have a couple hits in tonight's ball game. So the Mets bat around as well.
Yeah, Flores is the 10th man to hit. He opened the inning with a base hit. Reyes then doubled. Rene Rivera RBI single. Asdrubal Cabrera RBI single. Conforto single. TJ Rivera 2-run double, and that was it for Ziegler. Bearclaw. Flores doesn't go for the slider. And Bearclaw has fallen behind now, 2-0. Bases filled with Mets. Conforto, TJ Rivera, and Curtis Granderson.
Well, at the start of today, you thought there was the potential for some offense in this ball game. It has not disappointed.
Bearclaw misses. It's 3-0. And you can see where he's missing. So at 3-0 now, Bearclaw tries to dig himself out. And he misses again. And the Mets have the lead. Two straight strikeouts, and all of a sudden you felt Bearclaw was on his way to getting out of the inning. But remember, he fell behind Granderson 3-0, and that prompted an intentional walk. But in essence, he walked him after going 3-0 against him. And then he misses on 4 straight to Flores. So he's missed essentially on 7 straight pitches. Reyes cracks one to first. Bohr is there, and a long inning comes to an end. 11 men come to the plate, and the Mets with 5 runs have the lead, 8-7. Occur next. Let me look at the cricket numbers. 6 in the 4th for the Marlins. But that 2-run homer in the bottom of the 4th for the Mets is now key. After a 5-run 7 and an 8-7 lead, both managers working their lineup cards, and both have gone deep into their bullpens, and the Mets are going to dig a little deeper. Addison Reed takes over for Jerry Blevins.
The other thing that hasn't been considered to this point, this being the 8th game between the Mets and the Marlins, is Jeurys Familia, who is waiting at the end of the ball game for the Mets now.
Giancarlo Stanton, Marcell Ozuna, and Justin Bohr. You're right, Familia was suspended when the Marlins saw the Mets the first 7 games. And Reed was closing games at that point.
Well, their bullpen just had a different feel to it. As dominant as Familia has been throughout his career, those games had a different feel, and certainly you had this sense that any game was reachable. And it still is, but Familia is one of the best closing out ball games, and he now is lurking in the 9th inning.
And the last time the Marlins saw Addison Reed, you can see Stanton has not had success against him at all. 0 for 7, 5 strikeouts. That one is out of play. The last time the Marlins saw Addison Reed, JT Riddle homered off of him in walk-off fashion. He has a crossfire delivery, and of course Riddle hit it out. Marlins won that game, but Stanton strikes out here.
The best part about the JT Riddle story was the game plan that he was given in the on-deck circle going up there against Addison Reed. Just the communication that hitters have, and went up there looking for a cut fastball, got a cut fastball, and didn't miss it. It was maybe D. Gordon that had whispered in his ear, heads up for that cut fastball. Maybe you want to look to pull it, get the barrel out. Went up there and did it.
Marcell Ozuna is 2 for 3, a double, RBI single. End of the bat roller out towards short. Reyes to first in time. Addison Reed has 2 outs here in the 8th. tomorrow, the Marlins had Wei-Yin Chen scheduled. He was put on the disabled list this afternoon. Odrisamer Despagne, the right-handed Cuban starter, has been called up from AAA New Orleans. And so you would expect it will be Despagne who makes the start, though no official word has been given. Here's Bohr trying to check at a high fastball, and he goes around. And of course, Reed comes into the ball game in a double switch, and the Mets get much better defensively in center with Juan Lagares. And the count's 2-2 on Bohr. 2-run double in the fourth. On a 1-for-3 night. And Bohr sends this one into center field. That's a hit. And so the big guy continues to climb out of that early season hole. A 2-hit night tonight, and here's Real Muto.
Made a nice real in-at-bat adjustment right there. Addison Reed was challenging him at the top of the zone. Was able to lay off, get himself into a little bit better of a count. Pitch that he could handle a little bit better out over the plate and down. A more down anyway.
Real Muto hunting fastball, fouls it back. JT is 1 for 3. 13 hits for Miami, and at one time a 7-1 lead. And as if things didn't take a turn for the worse for the Fish, it's starting to rain here. Again, obviously it rained all morning and all day. It ended probably in terms of just straight rain about 6 o'clock. It drizzled all the way to the third of the fourth inning. Real Muto swings and misses. See the rain behind Addison Reed. 1-2. Got him. 93-mile-an-hour fastball. Miami leaves a runner in a game that is turned around for the Mets. It's 8-7 New York. Marlins baseball history. Denny Echeverria's big day in Philly. Drove in 7, had a bases loaded triple, and a grand slam. Upon further review off of Roy Halladay, Greg Dobbs making a appearance on the show tonight. Always good to have the Dobber along. Echeverria on Miami's bench tonight. What a turn of events here. The Marlins cruising after a 6-run fourth, a 7-1 lead. Game in the hands of the bullpen. Brad Ziegler came in the bottom of the 7th and gave up 6 consecutive hits. Kyle Bearclaw came in a 7-7 game with nobody out and the bags loaded, and he struck out the first 2. Rene Rivera, the catcher of the Mets, fouls it off. Bearclaw then lost control. He fell behind 3-0 to Curtis Granderson. The Marlins just put him on. And then he walked Wilmer Flores on 4 pitches. And that right now is the deciding run.
That's also been one of the biggest issues with this Marlins pitching staff.
Dribbler to third, Prado charging and throwing. And he gets Rivera. MLB.TV is back and better than ever. Every out-of-market regular season game live on over 400 supported devices. You get a free subscription to At Bat Premium. It's the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. So Bearclaw has an out here. And here is Lagares, who came in that double switch, his first at bat.
And let me explain that issue that I had mentioned before that MLB.TV read. Marlins lead all of baseball in walks. And that's not going to work long term. It's something that they're going to have to figure out how to get back under control once again.
Last 9 games, Miami coming in had walked 53 hitters. Prado to first. That's 6 walks a game.
Yeah. You pair that with, I had actually run my numbers over the last week, and the staff has got a whip. Walks and hits per innings pitched have a whip of over 1.5. And that's not even getting into some of the long ball issues. So, and the solo homer argument you can live with if that's in fact what it ultimately is, and you're giving up those moments, but you can't be compounding things with leading the major leagues in walks, even though you might be, have a respectable differential in hits, per innings pitched, but you're pairing that with all of these walks, and you're just setting yourself up for trouble.
Conforto takes a fastball for a strike. Jury's familiar with bullpen coach, former Marlin Ricky Bonas. And Bearclaw bounces one, and the count is 1-2. Miami has 8-9-1 scheduled. So Miguel Rojas, who has 3 hits, a pinch hitter, and then D. Gordon. And Conforto swings and misses. And Bearclaw goes 1-2-3 in the 8th. Jury's familiar in 9th inning. Miami down a run. Florida is brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. By Jeep. Get great deals on the Jeep lineup at the Jeep Spring Clearance events. By your South Florida Honda dealers. Citi Fields. Marlins have had success here this year. And tonight they were sitting on a 7-1 lead. And they never thought they'd see this guy, Jeurys Familia. Maybe in a mop-up role, but certainly not in the ninth inning trying to save a game. And Familia's got a 1-run lead, 8-7 Mets here. It'll be Rojas, Derek Dietrich as a pinch hitter, and D. Gordon. Marlins, if they lose this one, this might be the most painful loss of the season. I know it's young, and this is only game number 28.
Still got 3 outs to work with. See if they can't come up with something against Familia.
Rojas, a chopper to short. Reyes in the hole, gets him. Footing is a little dicey out there. It's been raining for the last 15 minutes or so. You can see the infield is darkened up.
See right there, Reyes very deliberately sets his feet before making that throw across the diamond. Familia picked up saves in his last 2 outings. .6'3", 240-pound Familia. One of the best 2-seam fastballs in the game. 97 miles an hour. Throws a hard slider to go along with it.
(0-1) to Derek Dietrich. Dietrich pinch hitting here. This is the 9th spot in the order. Marlins have used Ichiro as a pinch hitter, and Dietrich here in the 9th. And he pops it up. Flores. And the Mets are an out away from an amazing comeback. And the Marlins are down to their last out in what could be a deflating loss. A 7-1 lead gone in not the blink of an eye, but by little cuts. 6 consecutive hits. D. Gordon.
D looking to get on any way he can, extend this inning, get Prado up.
.98 miles an hour with a lot of funk is Familia.
Baseball terminology, he throws a heavy baseball. It's a lot of ground ball outs. Very, very difficult to really barrel up. Does make mistakes.
Gordon up the middle. Reyes, low throw, and they got him. And the Mets win it. 8-7.
Jose Reyes fires that ball as quickly as he can across the diamond. As you can see, clearly gets D. Gordon by a step in this ball game. Tough loss for the Marlins tonight. Good to see the offense come back around.
Now the Marlins score 7 runs on 13 hits, have a 7-1 lead, and in the bottom of the 7th, the Mets not only get to the Marlins bullpen, but erase the lead in the 7th. 6 consecutive hits A bases loaded walk, and just like that, 8-7, Mets win it.